Okay, good afternoon and welcome to the 2018 version of GSEN 360. Hopefully everybody's had a restful break and ready to dive in and do some work. Yeah? It's all poured out from the freeze we had last week. Yeah? All right, good. So today I'm going to start by talking about the syllabus. So if you go to our eCampus website, the course content. Whoops. Yeah, but go to eCampus. Trust me. Course content. You'll pick up the syllabus back there, and then you can follow along as I go through the lecture. Also, under the course content, you will find a folder of lectures. So you can download the overview because that's what we're going to go through, and that's what's going to get you familiar with the type of notes that we're going to use in this class. As I will explain later on. Welcome. We don't have a textbook for this class. The class has been compiled from a series of textbooks, and those references have been provided to you in the syllabus. So what I've done is I've created notes that you will then follow along, and you will follow both for problem solving as well as for understanding the theory behind the material. I'm also going to answer a whole bunch of questions that I know a lot of you all have, either stated or unstated, and if you have any more, please add. But over the last couple of decades of teaching this class, I've compiled my own questions of what students often ask, and I'm going to end today with just going over a brief review of what we're going to talk about in this class, and explain. Put the material in context. I know a lot of you will have a perception that this is an analytics class and it has a lot of math in it, which is true. But I want to emphasize that the math is not important. If you know how to add, subtract, multiply, and divide, you can do this class. Okay, I'm not going to ask you to do any complex derivations of calculus. That's already been taken care of. We'll do a little bit of mathematics, mainly on the computational side. But in terms of the derivation and the building of models, which is really what the course emphasis is going to be on, that's really about logical thinking, about how you think through a problem. And I'm going to start with a very simple problem that I put up on the board, and I'm going to add more and more complex logical problems. Because what you have to get into the habit of doing is looking at a situation and formulating a problem, or formulating that situation into a problem. Because even in your workplace, you're not going to be given a problem on a piece of paper like you are in the exam. You have to look at a situation and say, what are the variables here? What am I trying to study here? What is the outcome here? Okay, what is the solution? So I'm going to put this into context and talk about the analytics and talk a little bit about the skills that you need, and also guide you through how you be successful in this class. So I'm going to go through today a bunch of these questions, and starting with why you're taking this class. So now that we have a major, you're taking this class because it's required of you. All right? But again, like I told my son a couple of weeks ago when he was asked to do his math and he gave me a long face, I said, you know, the attitude with which you do your work reflects in the outcome. So I know you have to take this class, but what is your attitude when you take this class? It's a math class. I know a lot of you are good at math, that's why you're here. And so it's a math problem. I can just take the numbers, plug it into the problem, and solve it. Like we did last semester, right? You know what the variables are, you know what the formula is, plug and play. It's not that way, okay, because there is no fixed problem. You don't have a problem, you don't have a formula. You have to derive formulas. You already know that I don't curve the grade. I think last semester we got, what, 15 or 20 A's? Yeah? So, a lot of A's. And likewise, if you work hard, you can get A's in this class. I don't curve, it's just the material. If you work with it, you can have fun with it. It's challenging. And most importantly, a lot of, I think, so I taught this at Penn State, then I went to Ohio State, we taught this, I come here. I think we are the 5th program in the country who has an analytics class in the undergraduate program. A lot more classes are having, a lot more programs are having in undergraduate, these courses in the undergraduate program, because recruiters are demanding it, right? Recruiters want you to have analytical skills. So they are willing to pay the big bucks. I mean, you've probably heard stories of past students being offered $20,000 signing bonuses and starting on salaries as high as 80,000 grand, at 80 grand. So the reason why people are paying those, or recruiters are willing to pay that type of starting salary is because they value these skills, okay? And of course, when you're applying to graduate programs, when you're applying to an MBA, if you can say you've done math program, if you can say you've written a simulation, if you can say you know how to formulate a network problem, then that holds you in much better stead against all the other people you're competing against, okay? So think about these things when you're doing the coursework, because that'll help you frame your mind to have the right attitude. So all of the material, as you know in the class, is available on eCampus. I will try to record every lecture, including this one, which is being recorded right now. And I say try because every once in a while the technology fails me. All right, so the only thing that is certain about technology is at some point it will fail. So as long as it's working, it'll be available online. The homework solutions I will have online, and I'll talk about homework solutions a little bit later. Grades, class announcements I tend to go more towards an email, because with all the upgrades, I'm not sure how Blackboard does it anymore, and I don't know how you set up your settings, whether they push it to your text message or they push it to your email. So I just tend to send emails. Okay, so that's what I've been doing more and more often. So as I said, if you look at the overview notes today, that is the format of the lecture notes that you're going to see. And you'll look in the lecture notes folder on the course content on eCampus. You will see there is a set of lecture notes for every single module that we have. Now, some lecture notes are divided up. Some lecture notes are consolidated. For example, Lecture 7, which is linear program, is all one set of notes. But I've subdivided it 7.1, 7.2, 7.3 based upon the lectures that we are going to be covering on separate days. And some of them, for example, forecasting, I've divided it up because of the material being so vast. So it's going to change. Now, in those notes, I have blanks, as you've already experienced in the past, but this time I have definitions, key facts, important variables, and of course problem solving that you have to take down. So please come ready to write in, again, people have asked me tablets, etc., etc. For me, I'm still old-fashioned. I mean, I use a tablet, but what I like about pen and paper is I have all my highlighters there. I have my pen, different colors, different color pens. I mean, here I still am a little bit awkward in messing around, getting the right colors and all that. So for me, I still prefer, if I'm attending a class, I still prefer but again, it's up to you. I would suggest that you take your notes with different color felt pens, with different color pens and pencils, because there's a lot of drawing to be done, okay? So that's the lecture notes. In my offices, most of you visited me at some point last semester. Again, emails, please send to me, GSCM360. So if there is anything urgent, it shows up in a separate folder and I can attend to it if there's an email there. My office hours are just before this class. If you can't make those office hours, I believe there's a class that you're attending before this class. If not, then I'm available before this class. Or I'm available a lot of the time during the week. It's just that, as I've said in the past, my room is right next to the conference room and those other meeting rooms, so I always have my door closed. But please knock. call my office, email me. I'm on email, and we can make an appointment to meet if you can't make those office hours. And again, let me remind you that before homework, before exam, the night before is a bad time. I cannot answer your questions in time for you to be able to address the problem effectively. Okay, so I don't take attendance, but in order for you to be successful, you have to be able to attend the class. You have to be able to participate in the class. There's a lot of questions I'm going to ask you. I'm going to try to make this as interactive as possible. I'll even ask you to solve some problems on my virtual board. So I'll give this to you and you can solve the problem in your place. So I want you to be participatory, okay? Especially if you feel that you are not getting the material, I'm encouraging you to participate more. It's okay to make a mistake in the lecture, all right? It's another thing to make the mistake in the homework. It's quite another thing to make the mistake in the exam, right? At which point it's going to affect your grade. But it's a whole other thing if you're going to make that mistake in your workplace. You don't want to show up at your workplace and, in a meeting, give the wrong definition or do the wrong calculation and present it to your boss. So please make your mistakes during the lecture, all right? So participate, show that curiosity to learn. There's many opportunities for you to learn outside the classroom related material. Many opportunities to do extra credit, as I've always provided before. So please take advantage of that, okay? And as you know before, I've not seen too much of a problem with folks asking questions in this class. Could continue doing that. And, a lot of this material is what I do on a daily basis. So I tend to get a little bit excited at different parts of it because, stuff that I do and I might be involved with, directly. So I can talk fast and, get a little bit excited. So you can always put your hand up and just tell me to slow down, okay? So if you don't understand also, please do that. Okay, so I've developed this method called the toll gate method, okay? I've borrowed it actually. I borrowed it from another discipline. But I've applied it to how we learn. So we pay a toll because we need to do something. We need to gain value. We pay a toll to access a road so we can drive quickly to our destination. Here we are paying a toll because we want to learn something of value. The way we will pay a toll is we have to put in some effort, put in some time, right? So that effort and time starts before the class. So you have every single lecture note that you need for the entire lecture, for the entire course. Before every class, I would urge you to read those lecture notes. A lot of them might be missing, but at least you know that I'm doing forecasting today. At least you know I'm doing non-stationary methods. Okay, at least you understand some of the concepts. Okay, at least you know that, okay, now I'm doing time series. Or you come to class and know, okay, there are 4 things that I need to know for this class, and that's an objective function, a decision variable, a constraint, and a restriction. Okay? So I need to pay attention to these 4 things. And I need to ask a question if I don't understand them because of the key elements of how I solve this problem. So before class, read the notes and start formulating your thoughts and questions. During the class, if you hear something that you don't understand, or if you're solving a problem, or you see me solving a problem, and you say, I don't know how to do that, or how did he go from step X to step Y? Or why did we get this instead of that? Stop me and ask me immediately, all right? We have a lot of material to cover. This is the number of textbooks we're going to cover this whole class, this whole course, okay? So we are basically distilling about 6 or 7 graduate courses into this one undergraduate sort of survey of all these methods. So there's going to be a lot of material that we cover, and I can always drop something. So if we are spending a lot of time on a certain thing, now there's 1 or 2 of you, then I'll say, okay, let's go back to my office after class and let's talk about it, okay? But if the whole class is a problem, then I'll say, okay, let's continue and let's go back to this concept and let's iterate back and forth till everybody's there. Maybe it's how I'm teaching it. Probably that's the problem. Okay, so please make sure that during the class you're paying attention. I know that towards the middle of the semester, work is going to catch up, other classes are going to catch up, exams are going to catch up, you're going to come to class, it's nice and warm, it's drowsy, I'm droning away, you're going to fall asleep, Pay your neighbor a couple of bucks and ask him to, or ask her to nudge you awake, okay? so that you can pay attention. Or have a nice stiff cup of coffee before you come to class. That also helps. So after class, redo the problems. Okay, I'm also going to provide a lot of practice problems for areas that I know you need practice in. Make sure you do those practice problems and then come and ask me. Okay, I'll provide the solutions. I'll also provide video solutions, but make sure you try to solve the problems first before you look at the solutions. One of the curiosities about a lot of the methods we're going to be doing in this course is that when you actually see the solution, it looks very intuitive. But actually to come up with a solution, there's that one sort of golden thread that if you don't get that, and the only way you can get that is by putting pen to paper and trying different ways to solve the problem. Okay, it becomes an art after some time. So the only way to develop that knack to do that art well is to be actually practice. Okay, and then of course the homework. Do the homework. The homework is a participatory grade again, and you're going to have to grade your own selves. I'm going to provide you the video lecture solutions, and then you come to my office if you have a problem, and then we talk about it. We also have, I didn't bring him here, but we have, why can't I remember his name? But we have a tutor who's going to be available in the VLRC, and he and I are working on research together as well, so he knows a lot of these materials. He's actually using a lot of them in his research. So he will be available also as an additional resource. The homework is the ultimate trigger. If you don't know how to do the homework, then you definitely need to come and see me. All right? Because then we need to go over and remedy whatever you're not understanding. All right? No questions so far? Okay, so in terms of grading, there are 3 exams. Each are a quarter of the entire grade. Totally, there will be 3/4 of the grade. There are 7 homeworks. 6 of them are going to be graded. In other words, 6 of them you can solve 6 of the homeworks, and I will take the top 5. Okay, 1 homework is extra credit. Okay, so each homework is worth 2 points. So the homeworks are worth a total of 10%. Okay, so remember, there are 7 homeworks. 6 of them can be solved, and again, it's for participation. If you do only half the total homework, you only get 1% instead of 2%. The homework solutions are provided online. You do the homework, you follow the solutions, and you see if you've got it right or wrong. And then you come to me, and then we'll solve it if you have any problems with understanding. Okay? The simulation homework is for extra credit, and I'll talk a little bit about that later on. Now, the third part, which is the network design, there is a slight problem with. I'm not yet sure whether we have the software. Okay, so the problem was that the software was given to us by IBM, but then IBM sold the software to Lamasoft, another company, and now Lamasoft hasn't decided what they want to do with it. So Lamasoft wants me to use their own software, which is crap. So I need to go back and check whether I can use the original IBM software, which was the one I've been using all this while, or hopefully Lamasoft will include their software they bought from IBM into their own suite of tools, and then we can use that. But the only problem is they charge $5,000 per license, which is extremely dear, and so I don't know whether our college will be able to afford it. So that's an issue that I'm trying to sort out with the company, with the dean, et cetera, and it's not pleasant, but that's why I have a TBA over there. So we'll see. In terms of extra credit, you have the LOC that you've done last semester. Now that's extra credit. So there's 5 LOCs, and you can do them. The schedule is provided in the syllabus. So if you look at the second last page of the syllabus, you'll see the schedule, and the schedule will let you know about when each LOC is due. Questions? So as I said, the simulation homework is going to be provided for extra credit. The reason I've done that is it's a little bit more challenging, but gives you an opportunity to do something, do a little bit of programming, that requires you to kind of do something that you haven't been able to probably get a chance to do before. Over time, I know that different groups of students have different tendencies, and I certainly, this course is not about turning everybody into a programmer. If there are people among you who like to program, then this is something that you could avail of. Then you also have the extra credit, which is from newspaper articles for the logistics outside the classroom. All the same parameters apply as before, so you're familiar with that. All right. So in terms of what is this course? We're going to look at a number of quantitative modeling approaches. Okay, so from demand forecasting to just how do we understand what our demand is, to understanding what our supply chain network is about. Okay, so we will end up looking at the entire supply chain network, from how do we route our transportation, to which modes of transportation should we use, where do we locate our inventory, where do we produce, what products do we ship to which customers from which plants through which distribution centers. We will look at the entire problem using quantitative models. And the beauty of these quantitative models are that at very low cost, they provide us a lot of information in terms of informing decisions that we have to make as supply chain managers. Okay, our decisions as supply chain managers is primarily about meeting customer demand, right? But we know from 355 that meeting customer demand is just one thing. We need to manage a number of different levers: inventory, in order to maintain customer service, transportation, production, raw materials, procurement. So all of these things have to be managed. So this course is about providing you with a suite of tools that will help you in solving a number of the different problems in a number of different locations, whether it's transportation, whether it's managing facilities, whether it's managing inventory, whether it's modeling how you want to produce, where you want to produce, what you want to produce, in what quantities. All of the problems that we can usually come up against in a supply chain or in a supply chain context, we can usually solve using these problems. And these are well established. They've been used for the last 50 years in supply chain management, or as it used to be called, physical distribution. So we learned last semester about heuristics. We learned about mathematical programming. We learned about simulation. So there is a book on every one of these. So there's a book on simulation. Okay, we're going to learn about simulation. There's a book on mathematical programming. Okay, so we're going to learn about mathematical programming. And there's a book on inventory management. Okay, there's also a book on forecasting. Okay, so each one of these books have been compiled into the notes that have been given to you, and then we'll end up with network design. Okay, next semester in fall, you're actually going to take a course on network design. So the entire course is going to be dedicated to network design. So all of these modeling methods, hopefully you will get a sense of understanding what these methods are about. In reality, some of these you can implement in the software, or your companies or your employers would have software that you can run these models through. A lot of the time, you can build these models in Excel, as we will learn how to do in the class. So in terms of the 5 modules, we're going to start with forecasting. We're going to take a much deeper dive, and I'll give you a little bit more of a background when we look at each one of these 6 methods. Our introduction to modeling. Okay, so if you take the modeling book, for example, this is an undergraduate introduction course in industrial engineering. Okay, so this textbook. So if you do industrial engineering, if you do this entire course, you will go through that book. We are probably going to scratch the surface of that book, so that's why it's introduction. All of these methods are introduction. We're not going to go into any detail behind the mathematical theory. We're just going to learn how to solve the problem. We're going to be more modelers than mathematicians, right? Routing and scheduling, the transportation piece, and facility location and network design. So let me go through each one of these and we'll talk about them. So in terms of forecasting, we're going to now take a deeper dive and understand not only just about time series forecasting, but what are the issues that we need to take into account when we're forecasting. Yes. Because what happens when we forecast? When we forecast, for example, if I'm trying to come up with a forecast and I say, okay, I need a forecast for SKU XYZ 1 to 3 for the third week of February. I get one number, right? What do I know about that one number? Sorry? It's wrong, right? It's an estimate of what the forecast is going to be. And if it's wrong, how do I know how much it's wrong by? Which direction is it wrong in? Which direction is it going to be wrong in? Can I reduce the error of the wrongness of the forecast? What are some of the factors that I can help influence how wrong my forecast is? Can I do anything about the actual demand? Can I bring it closer to what my forecast is? Do I want to bring it close to what my forecast is? How do I now respond to the fact that I have a wrong forecast? Right? So those are the issues that we need to deal with in forecasting. So we'll go into some more detailed methods in terms of time series forecasting, and we'll do some more involved methods in terms of exponential smoothing. And then I'm hoping to get somebody from practice to come in and talk about how they actually do this in practice. Okay? So there's a couple of folks who have expressed an interest to come in, so I'll probably get somebody for certain. I know last semester I said I'll get a few people, but it didn't end up because I was traveling and then they were traveling, so we didn't really manage to get our schedules right. But we will definitely get somebody in this time. In terms of modeling, there are 3 methods that we're going to look at. We're going to look at heuristics, we're going to look at math programming, and we're going to look at simulation. Okay? And we're going to look at when you use each of these 3 methods, when you combine them, and how do you combine them, why do you combine them, and then how do you use them to solve some problems. How many of you have done the Lego problem before? The Lego problem? Nobody's done it? So we'll start doing the Lego problem. The Lego problem will motivate how we solve how we do the linear program. And then we'll do some very simple modeling in terms of simulation. But I'll show you how the simulation can actually be used to solve some fairly complex problems. We're going to take inventory management now to the next level, where we're going to learn some of the more advanced techniques and how you maintain and manage inventory in multiple locations for multiple products. How do you manage uncertainties across a number of different inventory items? And we will end by looking at some of the theories behind aggregation, risk pooling, statistical scale economies. For routing and scheduling, pretty straightforward. How do you route a truck? How do you route multiple trucks? How do you set up a route? You have 20 customers that need to be served in one day or in 1 week. How do we route one truck or multiple trucks to serve all these customers, to meet their demands, to meet their time windows, to meet their load capacities, or to serve their needs in terms of delivering quantities? That's one. How do we schedule drivers? How do we schedule the trucks? Okay, so driver scheduling is an important part of any logistics exercise because drivers are governed by after service regulations that the U.S. federal government or any government will have regulations to ensure that human drivers, right, you have to make that distinction now, human drivers have to take rest at certain times and they have to take certain hours break in between their driving so that they don't get fatigued. So that's another scheduling problem that we have to solve in logistics. We look at the several building blocks. A lot of them come from computer science to do some simple algorithm solving for routing trucks, because if you think about computer science and routing trucks, more or less the same. We have servers and computers through which you want to route binary packets, and you do the same thing, except you have physical trucks that actually move physical goods between different origins and destinations. And finally, we're going to look at facility location first, which is how do we locate our different facilities, whether they are production facilities or they are distribution facilities, or how do we locate in terms of a supply chain network design, how do we locate or how do we configure our network, how do we design our network. One of the things, if I am able to get somebody to come and talk about this, one of the things that most practitioners will tell you is that when you design your supply chain network, 80% of the cost of supply chain management is built into that design. Okay? Because when you've designed your supply chain, now you've fixed where your vehicles are going to be moving, right? And we know that a large percentage of your supply chain costs are transportation costs. You've also fixed where you're going to hold your inventory. Yeah? So, again, a large percentage, because after transportation, inventory is a big percentage of the cost. And of course, your facilities themselves, the fixed costs of your facilities are pretty large. So where you locate your facilities, you know, the labor costs, the real estate costs, taxes, etc., are already built into the supply chain. So 80% of your supply chain costs are built into your network design. So that's why we tend to focus a lot on supply chain network design, because it's a big chunk of the supply chain cost. So hopefully we get a chance to look at software that we can use to solve these problems. If not, we'll probably just come up with our own model. Right? We'll just build a model on our own. It might be a little bit more challenging, but it might be a little bit more fun. So we'll see. It depends upon our vendors, whether they are agreeable or not. Okay, so in terms of our coursework, that's the coursework. I now want to kind of ask if there's any questions.